sweet and sour pork. In this bag I have approximately 300 grams of pork shoulder, which I've cut into cubes. And to make it all the more inexpensive, all the less expensive, what I've done is I've taken that off a larger pork joint, so it's an economy of scale. Butchers generally charge you for how many knife cuts they make, so I do it myself. I've got a large joint, cut it down into 4, and I've got cubes like this, and they're very versatile because I can use them in I can use those size pieces in stews, in curries, I can use them in kebabs, and they've got all sorts of uses. And in this video I'm going to turn them into sweet and sour pork cubes. And as you see from there, we're going to take just 300 grams of pork and turn it into something quite large and quite impressive. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get and season all this. So now into the bag goes a tablespoon of soy sauce, about 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper, and 2 cloves of garlic. And then we zip the bag up and then mash it all up and make sure that it's well mixed in. So I'm just expelling the air from the bag, zipping it up and giving it a good old mix around. And then that now, once that's thoroughly mixed up, that goes in my fridge and marinates for about a minimum of 2 hours, but I'll probably leave it in there for about 3 or 4. Hi, hope you're enjoying the video. I want to say thanks to Mike and Nancy Abel, to Bradley Bennett, and to my friend Mr. Paul. Thank you very much. You're keeping the lights on around here. Cheers, guys. Alright, for the sweet and sour sauce, it really is quite simple. For the sweet element, we're going to use sugar. For the sour element, I'm going to use some of this rather nice apple cider vinegar. That's one of the good ones. It needs a little bit of salty element, so I'm going to put in a bit of soy sauce. And for garnish, I'm just putting in some shredded carrot and some shredded chives. You can use spring onions, use whatever you like. It just makes the sauce look a bit more fancy. For colour, we're using ketchup, and that's just a tablespoon of ketchup. And to thicken it all, we're just using some corn flour or corn starch, as you may call it. Right, I'm going to need a bit of water. So in there I've got 100 ml of water, and I'm going to double that up with vinegar. And we don't need an awful lot of sauce. So now I add in the ketchup, I'll stir that in. And into that I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, corn flour. So 2 fairly heaped teaspoons. And I'll stir that in. Make sure it's stirred in, you've got no lumps. And then I'm going to now put that in a little saucepan and put it on the stove. So I'll put that on the stove, keep it moving. And into that I want to put in, for starters, I want to put in a tablespoon of sugar. That's where the sweet comes from. And we can adjust that later. And then we bring that up to heat, and as it gets hotter it will start to thicken and clear, and you'll need a bit of water on standby. What I like to do then is switch to my whisk, keep it all moving as it heats up. And as it thickens, you'll start to see how thick it becomes. That's becoming quite thick, so I'm going to add in a bit more water, just a little bit. We can always adjust the sourness and the sweetness as we go. Now into that I'm just going to put a splash of soy sauce, no more than a splash, probably a level teaspoonful, and you need to keep that moving. And as it comes up to heat, turn the heat down so it doesn't overboil. And it's really that simple. So I've turned the heat right down now, and I'm going to do my taste test. And from here I need to make necessary adjustments. So I'm going to add in a bit more sweet, so another teaspoon of sugar. We'll see how that goes. And you know how you like your sweet and sour sauce. I mean, a lot of the takeaway places in Britain that do sweet and sour sauce, many of them make it hideously sweet, and I don't like that personally, so I prefer to make my own a little less sweet. That's really good. So I'll turn that off now, and then I'm going to add in my shredded carrot and my chives or spring onions. Move that around a bit, and there you have it, sweet and sour sauce. Very simple, nothing complicated about it, and no need to be daunted by it, because you can add more vinegar, you can add more sugar, depending how sweet and how sour you want it, so it's perfectly adjustable. Okay, for the batter I'm going to use half a cup of rice flour. Rice flour makes it extra super crunchy. Half a cup of plain all-purpose flour, a heaped teaspoon of corn flour, and a quarter teaspoon of baking powder. Quarter teaspoon of salt, and quarter teaspoon of white pepper. Give that a mix, get it mixed all together before I introduce the water, and then all I need to do is add in some water to make a batter. And I can't let you know exactly how much water I add, because I want to get to this stage where it's like heavy cream, where it's like double cream, that kind of stage, and then it's a good batter. If you like super thick batter, you can make it a bit thicker than this, but that's about ready. The next trick is how we deal with our pork pieces. Meanwhile, you need to get a pan of oil, and you need to bring it up to about 190 degrees Celsius, which will take a little while. So I've got my pork, which has been marinating for about 4 hours. It's looking rather good, and it's smelling rather good. Into that bag I'm going to put in a little bit of flour, a couple of tablespoons maybe. Do the bag up and give it a good old shake. I can see by the way it's catching to the size that I'm going to need a bit more. So you're going to need about 2 tablespoons of flour to do this right. It's quite good, it saves a lot of mess, and then your pork pieces come out nicely dusted and ready to use, ready to dip in your batter and go. So quite handy really. So you want to keep adding flour and shaking it until all those pieces are separate inside the bag. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you want to help me out with the donation, there's donation links below to PayPal, Subscribestar and Buy Me a Coffee. Meanwhile, the thumbs up and your comments below help a lot. Thanks ever so much. Thanks in advance. Okay, it's almost 190, so I'm going to now take my pork pieces and get them battered and into the oil. Don't be tempted to mess them around too much. You want to wait until they start to brown on the edges before you start to move them. Once they start to move, you can move them around and break them into individual pieces. Okay, as the volume increases, that's effectively the pork inside cooking and the steam breaking out. Okay, you're of course better off doing this in the deep fryer, but I'm trying to show you the process. So once they're a pale brown like this, we can take them out. And we're not finished cooking them yet. I'm just going to fry these in batches. And I carry on like that until all of the first batch is done. Okay, once the last batch of the first fry is done, we then take those out and then raise the temperature of the oil again to 190. Okay, once that's back up, we go in again with all the pieces, and this time we try to fit them all in. And then you want to fry them until they're this gorgeous colour, this lovely golden brown colour, and then you can lift them out. But I'll show you these in a minute. They're super crispy, and that's what that second frying's all about. It's about getting them super crispy. So just get a load of them. How super crispy they are. Please let me do a taste test. Thanks guys. Okay, let's try this. Have a little dip in my sweet and sour sauce. Super crunchy. Really tasty. Nice batter. Crispy batter. And the sauce is just right for me. It's not over sweet. It's not cloyingly sweet. It's still a sweet and sour sauce for me. Very nice. Excellent. Got to try this. Rather pleased with that.